Hi there. So, what's that one thing we all are doing, regardless of whether there is a lockdown, crisis period, or whether we're back at work? What's that one thing that is continuous? Communication. We're always communicating with one another. Now, communication is one of those essential skills that we must continue to build up and nurture. When I talk about communication, let me say in the simplest terms, I would say communication is how we exchange information, how people get to understand what you are trying to say to them. There are four different ways that we communicate. We communicate by speaking, we communicate by writing, we communicate by reading, and by listening. Okay? Now, this is very important for us to remember. It sounds really simple. I mean, we're just making this really simple. But the thing about communication is not exactly what you say, it's how you say it. Now more than ever. Now we've had, for many of us, there's some key things that we must remember when we are looking at communication. Let me just pick some three, four little simple things that we could talk about quickly that you could run with. Okay. Number one, now, even when you're not in front of someone and you're communicating, you're passing a message. You could be on the phone. Okay, you could be on the phone and someone says, "Hey, what's wrong with your voice? Or why are you sounding like that?" There is something about your tone that communicates a message that may be different from what you were saying. Okay, and so sometimes, you're talking to someone, they're like, "Why is your voice sounding so angry? Why is your voice sounding so tired?" And you're like, "No, I'm not tired." There is a tone to even your posture. If you're speaking to someone, you're lying down, it affects the way your message comes out. Okay, so we must take note of that. And then there is also the written communication. In this day and age, your written communication, if you're an educator watching this, no excuse. Like, we are the ones that we take the heat as educators for anything that goes wrong when it comes to communication. Other people can make mistakes. Other people can put typos. Other people can even, mix up their tenses. But when it comes to educators, people are like, what? They're the ones that are training our children. They're the ones that are doing this. So for us as educators, it is vital that you continue to build up and cultivate essential, proper, effective communication skills. Okay? Now the written one. Written may not always be when you're writing with a pen. Okay? Now more than ever, parents are at home with their children. They're up close and personal with the kind of information you send out. We're sending text messages. We're sending information. Your written communication can and will be used against you if it goes wrong. So you must remember your words, your spelling, your tenses. There's no shame in checking up the spelling of a word. I spend half my time on my dictionary app trying to be sure that, this word, is this how it's written with two N's or one N? Okay? And if I'm writing something in writing, I want to also make sure that I have written it properly. Then there is also, even in writing, there is a tone to your message. So sometimes you're writing something with bold letters, capital letters. And what that is signifying is, even though it's being written, it sounds like you are shouting the message out. Okay? So that's really important for you. Now, there is the aspect of listening. We must cultivate to be better listeners, active listeners, and that means that you're participating in a conversation. So even if someone is talking on the phone or someone is talking to you face to face, you should be listening and not just listening to the words. There's a lot of things going on between the lines. There's a lot of action. Sometimes you're talking to someone and they're like fidgeting with their pen, they're adjusting their stuff, and that means that they're not actively in this conversation. Okay, so active listening for you is something that you must also cultivate with the parents, with your clients, with the students. You must be able to listen to what is also not being said. And then when it comes to reading, reading, it may sound one-sided, but it's not, because you're reading a message for someone. If you omit words, if you read it wrongly, if you read it and interpret it a different way, there's also consequences. So something can be read in a way, one word being missing or one spelling can change the whole message of something you've sent out. Okay, so it's really important for us to make sure that when we're communicating, especially now more than ever, our tone is professional. Make sure the tone that you are trying to elicit. I want to believe that at this time, people are trying to send out messages that are more full of empathy, that are more full of care, that are more understanding, as opposed to being too strict. Everyone is going through the crisis in a different way. People are handling it differently. People are trying to cope as best as possible. And so when you're communicating at this time, I want to believe that the tone and message you're trying to pass on, whether it's written on the phone or you're doing a visual, I want to believe that it's full of empathy. And lastly, for those of us, many of us have moved to online learning and we're doing Zoom things and whatever. Don't forget when you're doing a Zoom thing, teachers, school owners, everybody, parents, try not to come up with your wrappers tied or wearing a bra or something as people can see you. And don't forget your background too, okay? I've seen some really interesting Zoom sessions where, you have like uncitables hanging behind you. Okay, so make sure when you're doing those also, you're also communicating with your environment and your background. So everything about you, whether you're speaking or not speaking, communicate. So it's not just what you say, but how you say it. So that's a message for you today, especially if you're an educator. We are the ones that, we're the ones that are meant to be holding the bar high, okay, keeping the standards high. And so we must continue to cultivate ourselves and build ourselves up, okay? Hang out with the right people, learn from others. There's so much free stuff going on nowadays. There's so many people that can coach you, so many things you can watch and build up your communication skills. So do that, keep getting better, use this time wisely, and learn to communicate properly, okay? Thank you. My name is Emma Mopashi, and I am the CEO of the School Resource Center. Thank you for watching, and have a great, great, great week ahead of you.